Also, like, since we did not get a chance to review the Bucks County Planning Commission report, I'd like to give the supervisors a rundown of the comments from the Bucks County Planning Commission, because the E30 use does require compliance with our zoning ordinance. The first recommendation they made was they recommended the location of the store and the fuel pumps be flipped so that the store is situated closer to the bypass. The grade of the site is 8 feet higher than the bypass, so as proposed, the canopy will loom high above the roadway. And they also noted the canopy could be positioned with the shorter end toward the bypass to minimize the visual impact. Second, on the building and canopy designed per our ordinance, the architectural design requirements for the convenience store and full fuel pump canopy to ensure consistency with the historical character of the community. The applicant should provide architectural drawings of the proposed structures to help ensure that the style and design of the building, the roof, and the facade are representative of the community character of the Newtown area. Per our ordinance, there's an adjacent residence. The zoning ordinance states that the lot or property on which a motor vehicle convenience store use is proposed shall not abut a lot of property that contains a residential use. An aerial photograph of the site indicates the possibility of one or more residents located on the church property. The canopy roof. Per our ordinance, the zoning ordinance requires that canopies constructed over pump islands have peaked roofs or roofs designed that does not appear as one plane. Information on their data table indicates the proposed canopy type is sloped. It's not an A-frame or a peaked roof design. They noted that the standard Wawa slant roof canopy is not consistent with the character of the area, but rather more typical of highway-oriented strip developments. The plan should be revised to comply with this ordinance. The canopy size per our ordinance sets a maximum permitted size of canopies at 3,000 square feet with a maximum length of 60 feet, but indicates that larger canopy areas and dimensions may be allowed in the OR district if approved by the Board of Supervisors. The proposed canopy is 5,300 square feet in size with dimensions of approximately 55 by 96 feet. The supervisor should determine if the size of the canopy is acceptable as proposed. The canopy height per our ordinance states that the maximum height of the canopy shall be 22 feet as measured from the grade to the highest point of the roof. The plan should clearly indicate the height of the proposed canopy so that the compliance with the height requirement can be determined. The canopy lighting and signage per our ordinance contains requirements for canopy lighting and signage. The plan should be revised to indicate compliance with each of these ordinances. The buffering and screening per our ordinance states that the softening the buffers and knee walls should be included if deemed appropriate by the supervisors at the time. And I don't want to keep going on. We do have the pedestrian safety, lighting, the parking lot screening, the street trees, the berm. There were many items in this report from the Bucks County Planning Commission that the applicant did not address. And the E30 use requires compliance with our zoning ordinances. And that's my report.
Do we have access to, well, I'm sure we do have access to the Bucks County Planning Commission?
Yes.
So everything, I think their report started with the E30 flipping or rotating the building. Okay.
Yes, to soften the look. I mean, as proposed right now, the lighting would be on the front, I think, in keeping with the character of Newtown. It's a better look.
Okay. You're willing to entertain some questions?
Sure.
Okay, Mr. Matt.
Yes, I know we discussed before the rotation of the plan. I think Mr. Calabro brought that up a long time ago when they had the sketch plan before us when they first came here. The term abutment, I've been notified by some people in real estate may not apply because of the roadway in between the property you mentioned and this site, which means it doesn't actually abut. However, in our E30 ordinance, right after that, it states that if there is a private residence within 750 feet, it doesn't say abut, it says within 750 feet, the Board of Supervisors have the option to limit the hours, determine the hours of operation. Now, I'm not quite sure when Wawa came there, but I was under the impression they were talking about a 24/7 operation. I may be wrong, but that would need to be qualified as well.
Absolutely. I mean, to be very honest, it was a very long meeting. We had a lot of public comment, and I don't believe that the hours were discussed.
That would be part of their land development plan?
Yes.
We'd have to look that up. I don't, I was at the meeting too, and I don't remember it being discussed either.
It's certainly something we can look into.
I think the biggest takeaway for us was that they need to comply with with our ordinances in the E30 use. And by not even addressing the Bucks County Planning Commission letter, I mean, this wasn't even brought up at the meeting.
Also, there was nothing addressed as far as the environmental impact statement as well. And I, for one, would like to hear a lot more about that and hear a discussion about that. Also, there are plans for the trees and everything that they're planning on putting in there. A lot of it is non-native, so there's a number of issues that we're fighting, and I'm sure as we get further along in the process, we'll find out more.
Correct. They said a lot of the plants that they suggested would not be adaptable, and also the buffering on the bypass, they had them as a straight line, and Bucks County Planning Commission suggested staggering to give it a soften the look a little bit.
Also, they had sod being used there instead of something that would help the watershed. The sod, everything goes straight through sod right down into the watershed. So right there, that's a terrible use.
Yeah, I believe they're all valid issues, but these are things that we could take up under land development, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Well, that's what this was. Preliminary is final.
Okay. A few questions on the meeting itself. You did have a quorum, correct?
We had 6 members, yes.
Okay. I don't see any names of who attended the meeting, who was there, who wasn't there. It usually is on the minutes, but apparently this is called a synopsis. I don't know if there's a difference. Okay. These were not kept by attending secretary, or?
No, we don't usually name who, but
Yeah, I think you do. I could pull prior minutes just to see that. But that's not the issue.
I can give you the names of the members.
Okay, wait, hold on. I can see it was a 3-3 tie. Now, to me, a 3-3 tie is a stalemate. What gave you the determining factor that it should be denied? I think that's uncalled for, because it was not voted to be denied or passed. It was voted equally among the members, 3-3. But I don't know if as chair, you determined that a declination was in proper order, and I'd like to know why.
According to our solicitor, a 3-3 vote is de facto denial.
No, it's a denial of the whole vote itself. It's not a denial of that motion. So you saying it's been denied, I think, is incorrect. I think the motion never went through, if you had a motion.
We did have a motion and we
Okay.
voted on it.
So 3-3 would be, again, a stalemate. Doesn't mean it was denied or approved. It just means that that particular motion was not passed.
I'm not an attorney, Phil, but as I said, we went on the findings of our solicitor.
Well, I just find that a tie, and somebody determining that tie meant that you weren't gonna recommend it to us. I don't know, it seems kind of slanted one way or the other. Also, is the bypass considered a highway? I don't know, can somebody tell me that? Is it considered a highway? Mr. Solicitor, do you know?
I don't know offhand, Mr. Calabro, whether the bypass is considered a highway or a major arterial road or some other classification of road in the Saldo.
Either way, it's not a local,
No, it is a state road. It is a state road because
But is it is it considered a highway?
I know it's considered a state road highway, I'm not sure.
Okay, because you mentioned that, Wawas are allowed to build along highways, and I'm just curious, is the bypass considered a highway? Some of the other things that you mentioned again will be addressed. I guess we're going to see these applicants that are gonna come before us, to answer some of the questions, which like I said, I think some of the questions you have are valid questions. The breakup of, the people attending this meeting, how many came up to the podium were Newtown Township residents?
Several, and we have,
2, 3, Mr. Diego says 2.
okay, so.
Okay, that's not
Uh-huh.
several.
I did request,
How many were, from out of the area saying Holland?
about 8.
Okay. So,
I did request that Newtown Township residents get up and voice their opinions first.
apparently, they didn't feel the need to get up and address it, but the Holland people thought that they could come to our township and address our issue, which is totally different than what the Wawa that they have. Am I correct? Theirs is going to be near a residential area, where ours is not near a residential area. I believe they have an existing Wawa that I'm sure maybe they shop at now, but maybe they don't want a super Wawa or whatever. That's their prerogative. But for them to come and control our planning commission meeting just seemed to be out of hand. And again, I'm not trying to tell anyone how to run a meeting, but the chairman should have had control of this and realized that this was being run over by out of township people. And that our people here that came up, only 2 voiced their opinion out of 15, 20,000 people that live in this township. You know, everything up here has always mentioned transparency, but it seemed like we were more transparent to outside residents than we were to our own. And I just find that to be appalling. I mean, you can run your meeting as you see fit, but if I were to see many people from another township coming, of which I don't even know how many people here are maybe from Holland, but I think they're limited as what they can say. This is not their township.
Are you suggesting that she should have not let people speak at a meeting?
I'm suggesting that she should have made the statement that if you're not from this township, maybe you shouldn't be voicing your opinion.
So you wanted to censor people that are going to speak in a public meeting?
You're not censoring, you're controlling the meeting.
I know.
I know that your view on this, I know your view on this, and your view
I hate the whole Wawa.
is against the whole Wawa, and I know probably you never even stepped foot into a Wawa. And if there is a Wawa in Newtown Township, there'll be a sign in your face on there and you won't be able to get in. I'm sure that's what
Now you're trying to censor me going to businesses in Newtown?
Absolutely, especially businesses that you don't want to support.
It's a volunteer position, you're giving her a hard time in an inappropriate manner, it's not worth you giving her a hard time about it.
Well, if you want to be the chairman of a particular committee, do it the right way.
Phil, you don't tell people to step away if they're not from Newtown Township. I get what you're saying, but I disagree with the way you're saying
The
she should handle it.
control of that meeting was under residents that don't live here.
Well,
You know, their opinion can be valued, but again, if you're basing it on the number of residents from Holland and the number of residents from Newtown, it didn't seem like there were many residents from Newtown that came out here and complained.
And your point is noted, that's fine, but I don't like you criticizing how the meeting was run, that's all I'm saying.
I can criticize anything I want.
You can, and I can criticize your face.
I think you're,
Okay.
by you telling me I can't criticize.
I'm not,
it's
suggesting it's not a good
It's
idea.
basically telling me that I don't have my First Amendment rights, just like I was
Okay,
told once
that's how you're gonna
before.
turn it around?
I mean, I was told once before I can't question minutes, but I mean, I think that's my prerogative and my free speech. And I know that some people out there that are not here tonight, maybe in another state, are gonna come up to the podium saying that I'm a bully, I'm trying to control things. No, this is called free speech, like you said. You said it.
And I agree,
And you're telling
you shouldn't be
me
shutting it,
that I
saying
should
it
not
should be
have
shut
that.
down.
Okay.
I should not. I should be
Alright.
shut down?
No, that's not what I said.
Gentlemen, may I interject, please?
Yeah, let's follow the decorum. Dennis.
First of all, Dennis, can I make a couple comments? I did have control of the meeting, Phil. I asked residents of Newtown to come up and speak first. I felt as a courtesy to let the people from Holland come up and make short statements, which they did. And then we continued on to our reviews.
Can you tell me who voted yes and voted no?
Yeah, I'll tell you who voted yes and voted no.
Good.
I voted no, Craig Deutsch voted no, and Terry Christensen voted no.
And you made the decision that no was the decision.
If a motion doesn't have enough votes to pass, it fails. That's a loss, that's a fail, it's a
But the
no.
recommendation shouldn't be that the Board of Supervisors shouldn't approve this.
By the motion failing, that's what the de facto standard is.
And
If
we
it didn't
can,
pass, it means it failed. There's not a middle ground.
It
It's a pass or fail for a
It
motion.
failed because of a tie. There should be no.
A tie is a
There
fail.
should be no recommendation.
Phil, you've seen it up here, how many years have you been on the board? Almost 18 years, you
Yeah.
know, if a motion doesn't pass for lack of votes, it fails. That's the way it is,
But there's nothing to say that we were against that particular person or business or anything.
alright, Phil, you know the point I'm making, we know where we are.
Yeah, I know the point you're making.
Phil, I
And
gave you the-
I know that the control, was of a no vote, and that's what was given, because, if it was a tie, and you were a yes vote as opposed to a no vote, would you have said it passed because it was a tie?
I left that to our solicitor to make that call.
Well, I'm not gonna call the solicitor up here.
And I gave you the no votes.
Okay.
The yes votes were Mary Donaldson, Warren Dallas, and Shelley Howland.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. And my way of approaching residents from out of town is I ask them to wait until the Newtown people speak, so.
And I also like to say that we are an advisory board.
Correct.
We review all the plans, we make recommendations. This was our recommendation.
And we can still take it or not.
Understood.
The final decision ultimately is with the Board of Supervisors. Our job is to review and make sure that any applicant that comes in complies with our ordinances. None of these Wawa did not comply with our ordinances. It's pretty simple.
Okay. And that was verified by the solicitor?
Yes.
Okay.
We're all volunteers up there. We've spent a lot of time. This Wawa we've been reviewing for 5 years. And
I don't know if it's been quite that long, but it seems that long.
it's been a long time. Yeah, we want it to be right. It's not that I'm against Wawa. I go to Wawas, but this is a massive land development that's going to come to the bypass. It's going to make a lot of changes down there, and we want it to be right.
We still haven't determined if the bypass is a highway, or if that's neither here nor there. I appreciate your help. I'm just questioning it, that's all. And I think I have that right as a supervisor.
You do. I mean, I'm not going to get in a pissing match with you, but I'm just stating.
Apparently we are. I mean, let's not, we are in a match.
Maybe we can get some relief here then, okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just want to say that Wawa was not prepared.
There
They
were.
came unprepared. I was a witness. I came and sat and watched, and they were totally unable to answer questions. So that says a lot right there.
Okay, that brings us to our second round of public comment. Mr. Christensen.
I'm Terry Christensen. I live at 67 Kirkwood Drive. I serve on the Township Planning Committee. The synopsis, which I note is different than minutes, it was referred to when our Planning Committee Chair was here. In the interest of brevity, I suspect, did not capture a lot of the questions that were posed. I have no intention of rehashing all those questions now, but I think it's important that you get a flavor for what was going on. I began with a question about a statement in the executive summary that said the level of service will, at the intersection of Lower Silver Lake Road and Highway 322, the bypass, will degrade to level D, which, according to PennDOT, that's approaching unstable flow and tolerable delay. In fact, a few pages later, that study indicated that it goes to level E and level F. So that initial statement in the executive summary was, from my perspective, a little misleading. And it applied to all three lanes, northbound left, northbound through, northbound right. So it didn't seem that adding another lane would address those issues. I raised issues about the weighting of the sampling. 50% of the sampling took place on weekends rather than during the week. As this back and forth went on, the ultimate answer I got was, we did more than the law required, which suggests to me that they weren't interested in being the most informative. And the data is stale. Data does not, it's like dairy products, it doesn't last forever. This was 5 years old in the case of the Craig studies. Let me give you one more little synopsis here that I found particularly bothersome. This was not my question, it was a question from a friend of mine. If you look at Table 6, page 10 of the PDF, shows an increase of 129 new trips on the Sunday church hour. It's based on figures, according to there, from Table 5. Table 5 is footnoted to say there's no data available for that period. That's a kind of slipshod design of a study that just, I mean, I'm also put off by the fact that they weren't responsive to the Bucks County Planning Commission. But this was a very poorly executed study. I want to reassert what I said at the meeting. I am not opposed to Wawa, and I'm certainly not opposed to economic development. I am, however, opposed to any governmental body, including this one, basing a decision on a badly flawed and poorly executed study. The last thing we need to do is generate another traffic quagmire in our new town, in this area. I mean, we talk about the quality of life. Unless we have one chance to get this right. Unless we do it right, we're going to end up looking we will not maintain, rather than cast aspersions on a neighboring township, we will not maintain the quality of life that we promise our residents. So thank you for indulging me, and I'll have more to say when this comes up for regular meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.